Hi guys, Blake and Kyler here today with Lilley's Landing Resort in Marina on beautiful upper Lake Taneycomo. Oh my gosh, that wave about threw me over. It is Friday, August the 20th, and we are going to do the one cast for you today. It is just about, oh I don't know, going on noon, maybe not quite noon, but we're getting close. Still pretty nice outside. We have overcast skies, a little bit of wind here, a little bit of chop on the water, just what we need for what we're doing today. Speaking of which, we are both throwing 3-weight 7'6" fly rods. We both have some 5X leader going down to 7X tippet. Both got about 5.5 to 6 foot underneath our indicators, and we are both throwing the Darin jig. And that is with one of the small airlock bobbers. Kyler's using the exact same thing back there. And I'm already caught in my life jacket. There we go. So we are just up here, a little bit below Short Creek. Over here on the south side. We're kind of in the middle, but just right over the top of the flat. Like I said, we've got a pretty decent chop out there on the water right now, which is just perfect with those overcast skies, and Kyler is already hooked up. Put the action back there on him. Go ahead and use the net to scoop him. I can net him for you if you want. I should have had him wear the camera or wear the mic. So this little 100th ounce jig we're using today is something that Darin up in the shop ties himself. The whole ditty behind it is that it's his name is Darin and they're ginger jigs, so I called them the Daringers. But they do work pretty well when the water's off and when it's running real slow. Oh, the camera's already pointing on you, buddy. What's that? There you go. Oh no, we're losing our chop. Come on, wind, don't die now. It never fails though when we go to turn the camera on that usually if we're fishing in the chop, it'll go away and go somewhere else. So like I was saying, the conditions are kind of good right now with that overcast sky and the chop on the water here. Also, this flat that we're fishing is usually a pretty good spot. But I'm just going to slowly kind of work the boat down through this flat over the top of this chop, as long as it sticks around, and see what we can do. You loosen the drag on the reel back there, bud. So far, all the fishing reports I've gotten today are that it's slow again. Oh, that's a fish on my first cast. I was getting ready to pull it out of the water and say no fish on the first cast. I was literally just pulling it up to whip it back, and he took it when I moved it. Oh, I got it, buddy. So as long as I can keep this on here, that is a fish on the first cast for both of us today. Ooh, he's got some gumption in him. So using this 7X tippet, I feel like it's been kind of crucial to catching fish lately, with the water being off. But that means that you have to be extra careful when you're playing the fish, and even when you're setting the hook, because it snaps like, I mean, it's fragile as a strand of hair. Oh, come here, buddy. Oh, he's really giving me the business here. Come to the net. No. lively. There we go. There we go. There's another nice little stalker. We actually stopped right above the resort on our way up here. There was a little bit of wind blowing right next to the dock, and I set mine about 8 foot deep and caught a fish pretty quickly. So I think just about anywhere on the lake right now where you could find some chop, and of course ours is completely dying off here, but anywhere where you can find a little bit of that chop, you could probably be throwing this and just set it to where it's about 1 foot to 2 foot off the bottom. That water above the dock was about 10 foot where we were fishing. You're all good. But yeah, this Darin jig works real good. I think you could probably be using one of the Turner micro jigs as well. Here brown and black have been good colors on that front. You could be using one of the 50th ounce or 125th ounce marabou jigs probably. Just find some similar conditions and set that fly about 1 foot off the bottom wherever you're fishing. I came up here to this flat and hoping that there was wind, which there was. Still is a little bit. Just because I know that they like to congregate on this flat. But that little flat section above our dock is also a good spot where we stopped and just fished a little bit deeper water. Oh, he took it and I missed it. Sometimes when they're not biting very hard, it's real hard to see a bite in this kind of chop. Whoop. Kyler just had a swing and a miss. Oh no, don't do that. Darn it. Something else that's good to do, whether there's wind or not, but I prefer it whenever there's some wind, is to every 5 or 10 seconds wiggle that bobber, move the jig a little bit, kind of try to talk them into it a little bit. Sometimes that little extra movement helps. And the other thing I have for you here is you do not have to be using a fly rod to do this. You could totally just get one of these indicators or even a weighted indicator to cast farther, and you could do this same thing on a spin cast setup. Right now on the depth that we're in here, you know, just a regular 6 or 7 foot rod would be plenty. If you get to fishing down where we were fishing earlier, it might be more preferable to have a long spin cast rod so that you're not dealing with a bunch of extra line that's longer than the length of your rod. And our chop has kind of died here, so I think I'm going to take us down there to where that chop's still blowing on the water. So we're moving down on top of the big log piles down here. If you've ever been out fishing on the lake, you've probably seen some people tied up to these logs or fishing in near them, it's another one of those really good spots. And right at the end of the logs that stick out in the water is where the water actually drops off and gets deeper. Alright, not a whole lot of chop here, but maybe just enough. Sometimes chasing the wind out here is like chasing that jumping fish. You get over to where the fish are jumping, they start jumping on the opposite side. If I was fishing the fireman's tournament tomorrow and I was having a hard time finding fish, I'd probably go with this method. 'Cause some fish is better than no fish. Hey look, there's one of those jumping fish I was talking about. Just as soon as I got moved over here, the wind stopped blowing in that spot. We'll go to the next one, see if it stays. Now this is probably one of those spots where we need to look at the depth finder and potentially adjust how deep we're fishing. What's the depth finder say back there, Kyler? 9.2 feet. So I've only got mine set at about 6, maybe. So I'm just gonna dial mine down a little deeper. I'm going to go with about 7.5 foot if we're setting at 9 foot. I believe Captain Pete this morning, they were fishing night crawlers on the bottom and they came back with their limits of fish, so I'd say the night crawler bite was at least halfway decent this morning. One thing I can tell you about this, if you're playing around with the depths, if you see it getting stuck on the bottom, like as if there's enough wind blowing and you can... Sorry about that, guys. My camera decided that it was just gonna go to sleep there. I'm actually gonna shallow mine up just a touch. I think I may have went farther than 7.5 foot. Are we? Yeah, where we're casting is not quite that deep though. We probably should have went up. It looks like the wind is staying strong up above us. But that's all right. Oh, there's a fish. Nah, I got it, bud. Well, I can set that about 8.5, maybe going on 9 foot there. And that seemed to help make the difference. Oh, he about jumped out of the net. Come here, buddy. Ow, oh, my finger. Ow. There's another one. So like I said, all we're doing is just chasing the wind and making sure we're set at the right depth here. I think you could do that just about anywhere on the lake with the water off with a little micro jig as this one. But I will say the Derringer does seem to be pretty effective most of the time when I use it. Oh yeah, there's some extra wind. It almost seems like there might be a chance for rain here. Not 100% sure on that, but... What's the depth finder say now? Still at 13? I think another good spot to be right now, assuming that there's some wind down there, would be on the Cooper Creek flat. Oh, I just know I'm gonna get tangled up in that grass pile. Oh my gosh. Did you have a bite?
That's hoping that's too big.
No. I'm just trying to keep my cast over there in the wind, but it seems to be eluding me. Well, if we could keep this wind blowing, I think we'd be catching even more fish than we have, but seems everywhere we go it's dying, so. I know a lot of the time, once it gets closer to the middle of the day, you can go down by the landing. Usually if there's wind, it's hitting down there a little harder than it hits up here, just because it's more wide open down there, less trees blocking it. But I think I'm getting ready to give up on this because we just can't keep the wind by us. Alright, that's my last cast. Yep, looks like the wind died up there too. Darn it. Well, we had something going for a second. Alright. Oh, there's a fish right there. I wiggled it enough, I guess. He's a flyer. I do find that once you're fishing deep enough, the bobber wiggling up top doesn't really seem to affect them if there isn't very much wind. So wiggle that thing away. Sometimes it makes the difference. This one is a little bit bigger. Swim into the net. Thank you. Hey now. I don't know how he did that, but he found a way to get that tiny little jig all tied up in the net. Good job, buddy. You got your revenge. There's another one there. Alright guys, we're going to call it there and get to end it on a fish today. So we thank you for watching. Like and share us on Facebook. And we'll get out here and do it for you again tomorrow. Thanks guys.